Let's try this simple little game setup. The way that I've got this scene is that I've got a main camera, a directional light, and a sphere. Now you'll notice I've made a couple modifications to the sphere already. I've added a rigid body to it so that the sphere will fall when I hit the play button. There it goes. And I've also increased its size to 333. This is going to make it a little bit easier to click, as this game is going to be played by clicking on the ball to keep it from falling down. Every time I click it, I'm expecting to add a little bit of force in the positive Y direction, so that it'll kind of bounce back up as if I'm juggling a soccer ball. Okay, I've got the scene set up. I've got a script actually also called Juggle attached to the sphere, but right now the script has nothing in it. So let's take a look at what we want this to do. Now, right off the bat, the Unity gives us a start function and an update function. But in order to click on the ball, I'm actually going to need a third function called function on mouse down. What this means is not whenever I click anything. It specifically means when I click on the game object that this juggle script is attached to. So in this case, the sphere. And every time that I click it, for now, let's just make it do a print. And let's have it say, let's have this say kick. So I save it, come back over here. I'm looking at my console now to see if kick comes up when I click on the ball. And I'll hit play, and then I'll try and kick. Okay, clicked it a couple times. Oh, and there it is. Kick, kick. Cool. All right, then I reset it. So I know that my on mouse down is working. That's nice. But now what I need to do is actually affect the rigid body attached to it in order to push the ball back up. Now, we can't just come in here and say something like add force. This isn't going to work. We need to first grab and isolate the rigid body component that's attached to the sphere. This is what I'm talking about. Here's the sphere game object. Here's each component: transform, sphere, sphere collider, mesh render, rigid body. This has the ability to add force to the object. You can't add force to the collider or to any other parts of it. You've got to add force to the rigid body. So the way this works is sort of a three-step process. We start off above the start function, creating a variable. In this case, I'm going to use private since I don't really want it to show in the inspector window for playtesters, let's say. So I'm going to call this a private var, and it's going to be called RB of type rigid body. I find that RB is a common abbreviation for rigid body and is useful when naming variables. Now in my start function at the very beginning of my game, I'm going to say that RB equals get component dot rigid body. You may see this done a little bit differently online. It's recently been changed. The JavaScript syntax here with these pointy brackets and the parentheses. Now this is a level 1 project, but it doesn't mean that every single component has got to be completely understood by level 1 students. At this point, they need to understand the concept, the idea that this specific component, the rigid body component, is responsible for adding force, right? Is responsible for behaving in a manner that uses the Unity physics engine. Now, when I'm looking at my function here, I don't need the update for now, so I'm just going to get rid of it. No need to keep it around if I don't need it. And on my mouse down, I'm now going to try and add a force to the rigid body. So here goes. I'm going to say rb.add_force. And the add force function takes two parameters, two arguments. The first one being the amount of force as a vector 3. So I'll say this is vector 3. Why don't we do 0 in the x, 1 in the y, 0 in the z. I'm also going to multiply this by, let's say, 10, just to make the force significant enough to stop the ball and turn it the other way. I'm just guessing with 10 right now. Then I'll hit a comma, and I'll add my second argument, which is the force mode. By default, your force mode is force mode.force, right? A little redundant there. But what force mode.force means is that it adds force gradually in the way that a car accelerates, right? But I actually want force mode.impulse because I want this to be a little bit more like a shock, like a cannon blast or something like that, like a kick. So force mode impulse is going to add all the force all at once. Now, I should be in good shape here. I'm going to go back over and test my game. Let's hit play. And when I click, I'm hoping that I add a little bit of force. Okay, cool. That's even kind of working. But one downfall that I'm noticing is that if I allow the ball to gather enough force, it actually becomes really difficult for me to save it, right? So watch this. I'll let the ball get pretty high up and then fall. And then I clicked it. It did click. It showed up down here and it even stopped for a bit. But the click wasn't enough to send it back up. The reason for that is because as it was falling, it was allowed to gather a lot of momentum going down, And when I added force up, it wasn't even enough to stop it or turn it around. It just slowed it down, right? It's like if a car is moving and it hits something like a cone on the side of the road, the cone just doesn't have enough impact, right, to slow the car down at all. So here I've got this situation where the ball seems to be too heavy. Now, of course, if this was a soccer ball and you kicked it, there's no chance of the ball, breaking the force of your kick. So that's what I want my game to be like. What I'm going to do here is just before we're going to add the force, I'm going to make sure that the ball is suddenly not moving, just for a frame. So we'll say RB dot velocity, which means speed, equals, and then we'll add a vector 3 here, and we'll say 0, 0, 0. Now what this will hopefully do is just before I'll click it, just before the force is added, we'll stop it. You won't even see this because this is going to happen and this is going to happen on the same frame. So there won't be any perception of like a lagging frame or something like that from the player. So if I've got this saved, let's jump back over. I'll hit play. This comes down, cool. Play. It falls, and now even if my mouse is down here, I should be able to click it back up. Okay, perfect, awesome. And I'll just to test, I'll see if I can do this. Hopefully I won't miss it. Comes down, there we go. And you can still catch it. So that's great. That's much more playable, and I think it makes a lot of sense to do it this way. To make it more challenging, of course, you could add different wind, kind of pushing it to the sides. You could add multiple balls that you have to juggle all at once. That could be pretty cool. What I'm going to do right now, though, to just make this kind of finish off this simple game, is create a private variable that counts the number of times that I juggle this ball. And that'll just act as kind of my high score for now. And then we'll call it a wrap on this very basic game. So here's what we'll do. We'll exit play mode. We'll come back over here. I'm going to create another private variable. This one's going to be called score. And it's going to be an int. Because again, we're counting up number of kicks. You don't need numbers in between integers, right? You just need whole numbers here. And then all we need here is on mouse down, which means we successfully kicked the ball. We're just going to add, we're going to say score plus plus. That'll actually increase score by 1. So whatever it is currently, it'll increase it by 1. If we want, we can explicitly set this to 0 up here, so that it starts at 0. But in Unity, if you just create a variable, it'll by default, an integer, it'll start at 0 anyways. So each time we click it, it'll add 1. And then instead of printing this kick here, why don't we do something like this? Kick number plus score. And this will take the string, kick number, and add it to the dynamic variable score. All right, let's see how our game looks at the end. Let's hit play. It falls down, click, and it says kick number 1, kick number 2, kick number 3, kick number 4. Again, I'm looking over here. See where my mouse is? Kick 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'll count up, count up, count up, count up. Awesome. So this is a very basic game. Obviously, there's a ton of different things we could do with it. We could have it reset. We could have it store the high score. We could have materials in here. I mentioned before multiple different balls falling down. There's a lot of really cool things and ways that we can expand this and make it a unique game. But at its core, it's just a couple lines of code, really, in a Rigidbody. And we've already got kind of an addicting game that's fun to play. So try it out and let me know what you think.